Monuments are actually a gift because they describe the science of growth. It's how all living systems connect to source energies to grow. Now, our society on Earth can't grow at the moment without more truth. Okay, we need truth on the planet to be able to grow as a society, and that's the direction of love, by the way. So our society, to become more loving, we need more truth. Unfortunately, error always fights for itself. On the other end, we see it's a midsummer sunrise, and that's on the 21st of June. This axis is actually 49.5 degrees from true north, from geographical north. And this is the main mathematics which drives a lot of the mathematics in all the monuments. So 49.5 and the numbers 495 occur very regularly in all these monuments. And when we get to Woodhenge, you'll see this axis replicated, and Woodhenge provides the mathematics of the sunrise. Now, something you're not aware of is, why do we have 7 days in the week? The number 7 is the number of creation, it's the number of the heart, and it divides into 2 and 5. Now, the number 2 is to do with compression, and the number 5 is to do with expansion. So when we go to work 5 days a week normally, those 5 days should be spiritual work, not physical work. All right, and I'll explain to you what is actually going on Earth, because the physical has asserted itself, and we're ignoring the spiritual work. This is actually like a receiver for energies. So the actual real sunrise at Stonehenge is when the sun comes up on the 21st of June, summer solstice. It comes up over the 30 horizontal pi lintels. It comes between the 34 pi lintels and hits the 35 pi. And I'll explain to you at Woodhenge why this is important in the radian-based energy science. Now, one thing you have to know, that all the mathematics for the monuments is actually from the apex of the Great Pyramid of Giza. That's the original prime meridian, and we'll be doing that in just a second.
Dear followers, we are from Zelfwerkzaamheid. This is the first international interview we are doing, so we are very excited to stand here in England on Stonehenge with Nigel Peters.
Thank you very much. It's great to talk to all my friends over in the Netherlands and introduce you to some truth about our ancient monuments. We're very lucky here in England having the Wiltshire monuments, which covers the Stonehenge landscape, and also Avebury, which is about 17 miles north of us. And each of the monuments actually displays part of the mathematics of nature, how nature works. So hopefully today I'll take you on a little bit of a journey and show you some of the secrets concealed in these monuments and the way they display the mathematics of nature. So I'm looking forward to it, and Let's go over and see the stone, shall we?
Yeah, but my first question is, when we were entering the building here, we saw outside laying a brick with wooden layers below it, so how it's built. So can you explain this?
Yeah, I think they've got the wrong end of the stick there. The way it's actually built, the mathematics which drives nature gives you access to certain laws, including gravity control. So large rocks is not a problem to move or cut and lift and shift. It's been done many, many times on this planet. In fact, the technology has been here 4 times. And this enables you to move them to specific locations. And I explained why stones from one area are moved to another area to form part of that monument. I'll explain that to you as we go around. So it's going to be throwing you in at the deep end a bit, okay. But I do hope that you can see that the connections which I'll bring forward and show you part of the mathematics. Obviously it would take a workshop, a week workshop to wind people in to understand that you've all been taught the wrong way to use the base 10 system. That's numbers 1 to 9. Mathematics is actually 3-dimensional, and that's the way numbers work, and it's all whole number science, and it's based on prime numbers squared, which is what I've learnt from another presenter called Marco Rodin. And I seriously suggest, if you wish to understand the mathematics, you're going to have to look at his work, because you cannot actually do all the decoding without some of the features which he's discovered about. It's called vortex-based mathematics. Don't turn off because it's mathematics. And I know a lot of people don't like maths. Stick with it, because you'll see some pretty amazing things.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to ask a lot of more questions. When did you start? But we also have an interview inside later this day. Then we figure out that, because I'm very curious. Shall we go to the... Can you take on a journey?
We can.
We
indeed,
are
yes.
very curious what we can see and hear.
We'll start out on the outside and work into the monument. So we're actually next to what's called the heel stone, which is to the north side of Stonehenge. As you can see, it's got a lean on it. And if you look adjacent, there's if you have a look on the ground there, you'll see there's another marker.
Oh, that over there?
Yeah, and it's actually one of 2 stones. So with all stone circles and all wooden post circles, you'll find that all stones are numbered. Now I've actually got the numbering for these particular stones. The one which is here is heel stone 165, and the one which is being removed is heel stone 162. So if you have a look on this diagram, unfortunately we're stood the wrong way around, but we'll show you a better diagram in the studio. There's the 2 heel stones, 165, which is the one in front of us, and then the one which is being removed is 162. But what the archaeologists have yet to find is there's 2 more stones on the opposite side, and they're stones 30 and 33. And they actually make 2 axes.
You count the numbers?
Yeah, it's called taking the digital roots. So 1 plus 6 plus 2 is 9, and 1 plus 6 plus 5 is 12, and 1 plus 2 is 3, so that gives you the 6 and 3. When I first came up, I thought this was 6 and 3 of magnetism, but in fact it's on the other side. It's the 3 and 6. So anyway, so these are actually on very specific diameters, and those diameters actually provide part of the mass for the apiary pits, and the whole lot is linked together. So there's more. I probably can't actually, it's better to do this in the studio where there's less distraction, because there's a number of things going on around us at the moment, which is actually a bit disconcerting.
Yeah, so you see how it goes, because it's
non-commercial.
People are very aware that information may not be going outside, so that's what we notice here. So Yeah, sorry for the disturbing.
So basically there's 4 heel stones. There's 2 on this side, and they actually form very specific axes. I won't go into the maths of that now because it's a bit beyond where we are at the moment with an introduction. But I'll show you approximately where the other 2 heel stones are on the other side when we get round there. And these, the axes, numbers of degrees, and also the diameters which they're on, actually provides part of the mathematics of the Aubrey pits, because it's all related.
Here is also a big arrow for the mid.
Yeah.
Is that another
If
thing?
we want to just film, show you the arrow. So midwinter sunset is that way, to our south.
Yes.
That's where the sun sets on the 21st of December. And on the other end, we see it's the midsummer sunrise, and that's on the 21st of June. This axis is actually 49.5 degrees from true north, from geographical north. And this is the main mathematics which drives a lot of the mathematics in all the monuments. So 49.5 and the numbers 495 occur very regularly in all these monuments. And when we get to Woodhenge, you'll see this axis replicated, and Woodhenge provides the mathematics of the sunrise. The sun is the source of energy, and that's where connection to source energies is actually obtained by the mathematics. And it's maximum energy, by the way, the 21st of June. It's the longest day. And by the way, this is actually the science of growth. It's how all systems connect to source energies to grow. And all energies come from God, as well as God being an entity. And all that energy powers everything from atoms upwards to create our physical reality.
Nigel, what is the most asked questions what people ask you?
99% of people, they actually ask the question, how did they know this knowledge then when I start presenting mathematics? Because our Earth history, which we've been indoctrinated with, actually tells us that we're the most advanced civilization at the moment, which is not the case. Okay, so if people knew how the spiritual universe worked and that there's no death, therefore everyone's still around since the first parents on the planet, which is approximately 170 to 180,000 years ago, you can learn an awful lot more science and technology in that time than you can on Earth in 70 to 90 years. And it's the reason why we've been mostly blocked to that. And that block started being removed around the late 1800s, when people got more connected to the spiritual realm and doing seances and things to receive information. So there's a lot of emotional reaction to when I start presenting mathematics to people. But the way I start is the mathematics in nature, because nature's already illustrating what's going on in these monuments. Okay, so really that is the most asked question. It's how do people know? And it's the fact that if you're a scientist, engineer like myself, what you're going to do when you move on from Earth life, you've got a spirit body, similar body, and you've got to keep interested in things. So if you're a scientist and engineer, you do more experiments. And so God's mathematics, that's the actual term, because this is how God creates things, has been discovered probably about 100,000 years ago. And it's been on the planet 4 times. And by the way, we've got to be careful with it because it's high-tech or exotic technology, which is more powerful than we have today. And that's why I'm not really interested in that. What I'm interested in is the science of growth, which is really what my talks at Woodhenge are about. I'm not really here for the free energy. It's not going to solve any of the problems we've created for ourselves on the planet. So everyone who wants free energy, well, yeah, but there's a lot more you need to learn about the human soul, because that actually overrides our requirement for all the gadgets and all the tech gear which we've got today. Which I think anyone who sort of looks around them can see it's not actually going to go very well if we keep going down this path. We need to do spiritual development and so on, which I'll talk about because that's to do with the Aubrey pits in a moment.
Yeah. But what do you see here then? Is that connected? What you see here, the building, the structure? Is
Connected to...
It are stones laying on each other?
Yeah, well, we're not very good at looking after things. Stonehenge is currently 2/3 destroyed. If it's an easy source of building material, we're a bit lazy. Whereas the people who put these up weren't lazy. They knew what they were doing. So, but there's a connection. Stonehenge is a composite. There's many, many parts to it. There's various circles, there's Q&R holes, Aubrey pits, station stones, the Sarsen circle, etc. And they all have different mathematics and centres, but they're all linked together through a common theme. So it's one of the harder monuments, and I've only just been doing it in the last few months in earnest. And you need very, very accurate measurements. And perhaps that's why a ruler is called a ruler, because you need to measure things to understand how things work. And there's only a few groups who actually do the measurements. I mean, the archaeologists do the primary measurements, which is great. And those measurements are required together with Google Earth, because you cannot actually decode these monuments without Google Earth. In fact, I think it was created specifically to actually get all the encoding back from these monuments. If you look at the way the features are, you can draw circles and things and move the circles around and lines from A to B, and you could do very, very accurate measurements.
But what if we look at the top, what do we see then? If you look like Google Earth, then you see?
I use Google Earth more for places like Woodhenge, where you've got the posts, because you need to get the angles very specifically between certain posts. Stonehenge is too far deconstructed, but I did have to phone a friend or two. That's a spiritual friend who actually gave me the correct numbering for the Aubrey pits and also the Sarsen circle. And when we present in the studio a bit later on, I'll actually show you how Stonehenge is actually an astronomical clock as well. It actually describes the precession of the equinox, along with the Sphinx, by the way, on the Giza plateau. And I'll show you how they're linked together. I think you might find that quite interesting.
Yeah, because it's a long time ago, it's collapsed, eh? This in the yearly 50 or so, something like that. Is that true?
I'm not so interested in dates, to be quite honest, but all I can tell you is that this is all one big plan implemented right around the planet. So it doesn't really matter when they were constructed. What matters is the maths where they are. That's all I'm interested in, really. But the archaeologists are right when they say that a lot of the monuments seem to have built in phases where something's been added and then something else has been added. And that is true because the mathematics which drives creation has a number of phases. There's 3 basic phases, and I think that stretches to 6 or 7. But you'll have to look at Marco Rodin's work to actually get a better understanding of that. It's how spirit or the ether actually creates physical reality. We'll have a look at the Aubrey pits on the way round, and I'll show you something quite interesting with a bit of mathematics. We're standing next to Aubrey pit number 24 in the pathway here.
Yeah.
Now, there's actually 56 pits, and you'll know that the number 56 is divisible by 7. And it's very specific, because when we get up to Avebury, we have 98 stones, and that's also divisible by 7. And all this mathematics works through what happens when you divide numbers by 7. So each of these pits represents part of the mathematics in pi radians, and also radians as well. If you pan the camera to the trilithons, what do we see with the mathematical symbol?
You see here
we see mathematical symbol P.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, pi is actually, the symbol P is a radian-based symbol. This is a circle, and there's 2 pi radians in 360 degrees, so, or 2p, and using the European word. So if we divide 360 degrees by 2 times 3.142, and they don't use the irrational number, they use the whole number expression, 22 over 7. And if you do that, you get the radian, which is 57.27 degrees, which is what they use right throughout their mathematics. So if you divide a circle in 2, you have pi's worth on that side and pi's worth on that side. So pi radians is 180 degrees, or a half of a circle. So it's 1 over 2. 1 over 2 is a half, and they're 2 90-degree turns, and 2 90-degree turns makes 180. So this symbol, yes, I know it's in the Greek alphabet, however it goes back tens of thousands of years. It's a radian-based symbol, because all this monument mathematics is written in radian-based mathematics, just as Carl Munk said. So if we're just getting back to the Aubrey pits, you'll notice this pathway has been put in more recently. It comes in through a gap in the Henge bank, and if you actually look at the pit numbers and do the mathematics, we actually get some very interesting sets of numbers. So we come in between 38 and 39 pits, and 38.5 pi radians is 6,930. Now I know Eric's quite interested in the Nikola Tesla 693, and this is part of it. So 3.85 pi radians gives you a 693 number. Okay, that's one of the first things. So this is showing the Aubrey pits. Because there's 56, we've got, and if you divide that by 7, then it breaks down into groups of 8. Or 8 groups of 7. If we look at it in terms of 8 groups of 7, we divide them into 2 pits and 5 pits. So 2 plus 5 equals 7, 2 plus 5 equals 7. And that is the way this is split up. Now something you're not aware of is, why do we have 7 days in the week? The number 7 is the number of creation, it's the number of the heart, and it divides into 2 and 5. Now the number 2 is to do with compression, and the number 5 is to do with expansion. So when we go to work 5 days a week normally, those 5 days should be spiritual work, not physical work. All right, and I'll explain to you what is actually going on Earth, because the physical has asserted itself, and we're ignoring the spiritual work. So the 231 is when you add the numbers, the 5 pits together, 5 pit numbers from 36 through to 41, you add those numbers together, you get 231. And if you multiply that by 3, you get the 693 of Nikola Tesla. Also, 231 is the side length of the Great Pyramid. It's 231 meters, and I'll show you the maths for that when we get into the studio. The exit, we come out over pit 24, and the group of 5 there add it to 147. And 147 is the height of the Great Pyramid. So I'm not sure who arranged this, but effectively you're actually doing a Germany. We're doing it the wrong way. We're going from the top to the bottom, because we're walking around that way. We started off at the heel stone. But basically you're actually walking up inside the Great Pyramid mathematics. So
this is important.
what makes it quite interesting as to how all this has been arranged. So anyway, there we go. That's a little bit of introduction to the Aubrey pits. And by the way, there were sufficient pits marked, like we can see over here, and there's actually some more, although the marker seems to have been removed for some reason. There's a nice Google Earth picture which enables you to actually precisely place the circle which it's based on. And that's how I've managed to extract the mathematics, because there's 5 different mathematical centres actually within this monument. So it's not an easy one to crack, but I've done quite a lot of work on it now, and got quite a long way with it. So there we are, Nikola Tesla numbers, and also both the height and the width of the Great Pyramid in meters.
Well, where are we now, Nigel?
Okay, we've probably got one of the better views of what's left of the monument at this point. We've got the most stones available to see. And as you can see, the trilithons and also the outside Sarsen circle, they all represent mathematical pi, is what I'm trying to say when I put my teeth in. So on the outside, because we have 30 lintels originally in a circle and 30 verticals, we've got 30 pi symbols on the outside. So the whole circumference of Stonehenge represents 30 pi radians. And inside, the next level up, we've got 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. They stick up above. And then 35 pi, that's the big granddaddy pi on the end. So we've got 30 pi plus 4 is 34 pi and 35 pi. Now these horseshoe of trilithons are actually open to the summer solstice. We're standing the wrong way around at the moment to do this, but I'll show you in Woodhenge exactly how it works. So this is actually like a receiver for energies. So the actual real sunrise at Stonehenge is when the sun comes up on the 21st of June, summer solstice. It comes up over the 30 horizontal pi lintels. It comes between the 34 pi lintels and hits the 35 pi. And I'll explain to you at Woodhenge why this is important in the radian-based energy science. But the sunrise here, the mathematics for it is illustrated directly at Woodhenge. And I will show you how that's done.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite easy. So that's the real sunrise. It's not coming through the stones, it's coming over the horizontal because the outer Sarsen circle are all level, even though this is a slightly sloping site rather. And actually it's guided to hit 35p.
But this we don't see anymore, these circles.
Yeah, well, just one thing to explain about this. When we're talking energy fields, circles are to do with feminine energy, and the verticals uprights are to do with male energy. Okay, so we've got 30 male energy field and a 30 female field, and they're at right angles because you've got vertical and horizontal, 90 degrees. All right, so we've got both male and female composition here in this particular monument. This was just filming. There's a station stone there originally, and if you pan the camera across, that stone in the field is another station stone. And these station stones, I'll show you on the map, before we're the wrong way around for doing this. They're here and here. All right, so that's the one next to us on the path. And it has an opposite heel stone there, and this one has an opposite heel stone over there. That's also marked, you can find that on Google Earth. Now the angle between these two sets of stones is 45.8 degrees, and that is the angle on the missing heel stone. So these stones, heel stones, actually provide the mathematics for the missing heel stone, the one which should be next to the big heel stone we just looked at. So that's part of how the mathematics work. I will actually enlarge on that in our later interview, hopefully. But there's enough detail available from Google Earth images to actually get the precise circle radius and diameter of both the Aubrey pits and also the heel stones, and I have the mathematics for it because it all links together. It's all part of illustrating the same principles, if you like, in the mathematics. So I can't really tell you a huge amount about it, except that 45.8, if we multiply 45 by 8, where you have decimal points in their number systems, you can always move the decimal point, and it will make more than one set of maths. So 45 times 8 is 360 degrees, which is 2 pi radians. All right? Yeah. So, and 2 pi radians is what it's all about when we come to the Great Pyramid, which I'll go through that at Woodhenge, where it's a bit quieter and we've got less distraction. So there we go. Station stones, they provide the maths for the Aubrey pits. And the Aubrey pits are divided into groups of 5 and 2, which is 5 is to do with expansion and 2 is to do with compression. And in the mathematics, the numbers 5 and 2 are the only numbers which connect to the number 1, which is to do with output. So if you think of your car engine, it does compression and then expansion. And it's a universal thing for growth, in fact. And if you wonder what's going on Earth at the moment, spiritually, we're all being pushed through a tremendous compression before we expand. Once the expansion starts, then it will be unstoppable. And by the way, this is all to do with the Great Year, because the sarsen lintels, the numbering of those I've now got, and that links through to the Sphinx at Giza. And the azimuth, in other words, the axis of the Sphinx, which is actually 91 degrees. And how I know it's that is because the azimuth goes through the middle Pyramid of Giza, which is based on the 3-4-5 triangle. But I will enlarge on that a bit later on.
Okay.
But this is actually, it's universal. It's an astronomical calendar, if you like, which all goes back to the Sphinx at Egypt, because that actually describes the Great Year, which is 25,920 years. That's one cycle. It's called the precession of the equinox. So the Earth is like a spinning top, and it gradually precesses 1 degree every 72 years, approximately. And that precession is one great cycle. And it's actually a growth cycle. And it's divided into portions of 6 and 12. And the 12 is why we have the 12 signs of the zodiac. And the actual cycle starts when the Sphinx's gaze looks at Regulus, the star Regulus. That's for the actual beginning cycle. And then it takes 25,920 years to get back to the same position.
The resume is, this is not only a monument.
It's an astronomical calendar.
Yes.
So, what the Sphinx agrees with here, because this starts a cycle on the other axis from the Sphinx.
Yeah.
I will show you the maths of it.
Connected to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, from an energy point, if we're talking energies, round Stonehenge there's a clockwise and counterclockwise flow of energy. Now they've been placed by the builders. You can't see them, but you can dowse them. And friends of mine and many people have confirmed that. I've got a divining rod in the back as well. So, but it's difficult, obviously, because you're constrained to the pathway here.
We are now at Woodhenge. What's the difference with Stonehenge, or what?
Well, Woodhenge is a mathematical relationship generator, and it generates mathematics for not only Stonehenge but also the Giza Plateau. Woodhenge is one of certainly at least 4 monuments which actually are mathematical relationship generators. So this is Woodhenge here. You can see the 6 rings of wooden posts. And just above here we've got 4 more posts. I'll tell you about those when we get to them. But if we just turn our camera round over the other direction, just to show you, that is Darrington Walls. It's the large embankment running around the top of the landscape there, and it's like an inverted pyramid. And it's a super henge, and the River Avon runs down from the north and comes up in a big U shape just on the other side of the road. So that is the layout and the landscape. This is what links everything together. So we were at Stonehenge, which is there, and the roundabout, which is in front of the Stonehenge reception centre, is actually a very special location. And that location is actually described by the 4 posts we're going to look at in just a second, which are part of this monument here. So that's Stonehenge there, and we're at Woodhenge, which is there.
Oh, that's here. Okay. Yeah.
All right, and that above us, that is Darrington Walls. Okay, so this is the setup and the landscape, and I'll show you how it's all linked together. If we just wander across behind us to the 4 posts, and I'll show you what's going on.
Yeah.
So if we put the camera in line with these two green posts, and you'll see it perfectly divides the two red posts and the distance.
You marked this one? You
Yeah,
did
I
mark
put the coloured bands on just to identify them when we're talking. So these two are basically almost east-west, and those two up the top of the red ones, they're north-south. Now, the distance, something you need to know about all these monuments is how we measure them. And it might interest you to know that the systems of measurement are the imperial foot, as we have to previously, although we've all gone metric now. So feet, yards, inches, miles, they all come from these monuments. And also the meter is also part of the system. And it's the interplay between the metric system and the imperial system which actually creates the mathematics of nature. So they're not arbitrary decisions, these actual measurements. They're actually extremely ancient, and they originate from the monuments. So if we look at the distance between the two red posts, that's actually 11 feet. Okay, and if we measure the angle between the green, dark green band post and the two red posts, that is actually 11 degrees. So what its axis here is dividing 11 into two. So we've got two 5.5 degrees, and we've got two 5 feet, 5.5 feet. Now if you have a look at our map, you'll see that there's a cuckoo stone which is behind us in the field. You can locate that on Google Earth. If you draw a line through that at 5.5 degrees above horizontal, above east-west, it goes back down and crosses over the Stonehenge reception roundabout. And if you turn back the images on Google Earth, you'll find you can see the trackway of the second leg of the Stonehenge Avenue. That's Stonehenge, and that's the sunrise angle, which you can clearly see marked with the ditches. This one's more difficult, but you can see it on Google Earth. So if you project a line through there, you'll find that's also 5.5 degrees, but now below east-west, and they both cross on the Stonehenge reception roundabout. Now, these four posts actually set all this up in the landscape, and they're part of the mathematics. Now, the number 11 is very important. 11 radians is 630 degrees, and that's the 6 and 3 of magnetism. Okay, so it's what the numbers are doing which is important in this mathematics. So
the alarm is ringing right now, so you see
there's
it's
all
important.
kinds, you've had the bike revving in the distance, that's all planned to try and disrupt everything I'm saying.
It's
here.
good you
But anyway,
hear it. Yeah.
so you can see,
Motorbike.
I thought it'd be a bit quieter. Anyway, yeah, we have the two 5.5s, okay, extremely important. Now, there's also another 5.5 system which goes from the cuckoo stone down to what's called Blickmead thermal spring, and then the return line comes up at 5.5 degrees to the mathematical centre of Darrington Walls.
That's in the center of...
So the cuckoo stone,
That's the center over there.
yeah, and that's a 90-degree turn, okay? It holds two systems together at 90 degrees. And that, if you swing the camera around, you'll see a little green track just to the right of the small green tree and the fence. You can just about see a lump on its side, and that's the cuckoo stone.
Oh yeah, now I see
You
it.
can find that on Google Earth.
On the right side of
literally-
the path.
Yeah, and if you draw a line through that at 5.5 degrees, I'll show you exactly where that cuts through. So if you like to follow me and look over towards the cuckoo stone, that 5.5 degree axis, now you need to come in line so you can actually see. If you stand just here, over a little bit, and you see the other large
The
red
big
stone,
stones. Oh, it is the big
this
ones.
stone and that stone, the 5.5 degrees actually cuts through just the top 3 circles here, the outer 3 wooden circles. There's a thing called the greater cursus. Okay, now the greater cursus has got 2 angles in it. The top one is 5.5 degrees, and you'll find that the line at 5.5 degrees through the cuckoo stone goes just above the top edge of the greater cursus. The lower cursus edge is difficult to define, but I've actually walked it because there's a ditch and bank you can actually walk, and that is precisely 7.2 degrees. Now, you remember the 11 feet and 5.5 feet we had, and the 11 degrees and 5.5 degrees? Where these two axes meet, these two 5.5 degree axes, which is at the Stonehenge roundabout, if you look at the degrees, minutes and seconds for the latitude, you'll find it's 51 degrees, 11 minutes, 5.5 exactly. And that is how the system encodes and actually shows you how everything fits together. And by the way, the longitude, when you do the mathematics for it, it's 77,137.5. 137.5 we're going to come to very shortly. It's called the golden angle. So there we go. That's a little introduction to the setup and the landscape here. So
very interesting.
Yep.
I hear that I go back to school to do mathematics.
It's
not a normal school, but
well, anything I do, anyone can check out on Google Earth. You don't actually have to be. If you can do O-level maths, you can do what I do. If you can drive Google Earth and a calculator, that's all you need. There's no equations or anything. It's just the science of numbers and how numbers work. It's the numbers which are important, especially taking digital roots of multi-digit numbers, because that actually tells you overall what's going on with that set of numbers. But there we are, that's the setup in the landscape. Now if we want to go to the center, we'll start with a bit of nature. If we look closely at what's going on in pine cones and pineapples and sunflowers, you'll find that the swell's going one way and swell's going the other way. Now on all pine cones you'll find it's 8 swells one way and 13 the other way. And 8 and 13 are on the Fibonacci series of numbers. So has anyone ever told you how Fibonacci numbers turn up in pine cones, pineapples, etc.? Because this monument is actually going to tell you. It's similar with pineapples, except now we've got 13 going that way. Okay, we've got 13 that way, and we've got 21 going that way. So 21 is the next number up on Fibonacci. You just simply add 8 and 13 together. So these patterns, these swirls which we see in nature, come from what's called a golden angle. And that golden angle is 137.5 degrees. Now each seat or fruit component, you can think of that like the child process. The reason why it's done in nature, it ensures that each child or seed component can capture an equal and maximum amount of light for growth. It's a supremely intelligent and important statement for everyone to understand, because it shows the intelligence of whoever created all this. Okay, our parent in fact. So each fruit or seed component is thrown out at 137 degrees, 0.5 degrees to the previous one. And the result we get is, in the sunflower it's more visible, and you get the higher Fibonacci numbers appearing, 34 and 55, and even 89 you can get in the outer radials. Okay, yeah. So it's 137.5 degrees. Now, I came across, this is Maud Callington's original archaeological survey of this monument, which was done approximately 100 years ago. Maud and her husband, archaeologists, this is her hand-drawn site record, so it's not particularly accurate, but it shows us what was there. Now on that diagram, you'll notice that not only do we have the black post holes, and by the way, there's 6 rings of posts. The outer ring has 60 posts. 6 is a super important number. It's the basis for our periodic table. On the periodic table, it's 60 is neodymium. We use it for the mapping system for the planet. It's all base 60, 360 degrees, which is 6 times 60, and then 60 degrees minutes. And minutes and so on. And the Babylonians used base 60, which is interesting, which is a couple of thousand years or so BC, isn't it? So we use it for our time measurement, of course. So the base 60 on the outer side, on the outer ring. Then we have a ring of 32. They're the next largest ones. And then the very large red top ones is 16. Then we have 2 rings of 18 and an inner ring of 12. Now, something I need to introduce you to is taking digital roots of numbers. So if you keep on adding digits together in a multi-digit number and cast out 9s every time you get past 9, throw 9 out and keep the remainder. So for 60, that's simply 6. Okay, 12 is the inner ring and 1 plus 2 is 3. 6 and 3 of magnetism. And this is what it's all about.
Nice.
And this is what drives nature. Everything works in the same mathematics, and that mathematics originates in nature and is demonstrated directly to us. Now on that diagram, on Moore's diagram, you see there's actually markings next to some of the posts. They were like little slots put in next to the posts. And she said they were possibly ramps for helping putting the posts in. Now if that was the case, why on the outer ring are there just 2 which have additional features? That one there, and that's the one I put the red band on over there. If we want to pan around to that one. Okay. And then the only other one which has a marker is the one with the blue band up top. Now, when I found those 2 post markers, I thought they've got to be special. Logic told me they had to be special. So I located those particular posts on Google Earth and drew 2 lines approximately to the center. And by the way, there is no center post here. That concrete shouldn't be there. That was used for taking measurements, I think. And when I put the 2 lines together, it was close enough for me to think, oh, it's possibly 137.5 degrees, which is what they're trying to illustrate. Now, if you move the center, obviously that angle would change. So there had to be a secondary method of showing you that that is what is actually encoded there. So now we go to my precision diagram, which is a precision overlay from Google Earth. And these are the 2 posts. They are in fact post 1 and 24. Now post 1 is the one, the red one behind us, and 24 is the blue one. What I did was I experimented and I counted, because there's 60 posts, I went to 24's opposite number, so I added 30 on, and we come to 54. And then I measured that axis, and guess what? That axis is precisely 137.5 imperial feet, center to center of the posts, precise. And if you like, we'll get my big tape measure out, but you can also measure it on Google Earth. So there we are, it's the same as we saw there, with 11 feet between the 2 red posts and 11 degrees between the dark green posts and the 2 red posts. So there's always a secondary confirmation, so you cannot get it wrong. So when you put that axis in, it's actually on Google Earth, it's very precise, and it's 160.5 degrees. Now the other axis I experimented with, because I drew a line approximately to the center and thought it's near enough 23 degrees. Well, that's actually encoded because there's 23 steps between post 1 and 24, because we didn't start at the 0, which is 60. Mm-hmm. All right, so it's also a confirmation that we expected us to find 23. And with a 23 degree axis there and 160.5 there, you get the perfect 137.5. And that is how the system is encoded, of the golden angle, which is used in nature, and it's the basis for all 3-dimensional vortex-based mathematics, which drives creation, everything from the atom upwards. So the 6 rings of posts, we'll go into a little bit more detail a little bit later on, but just to show you why those 2 posts on the outer ring are special, they actually hold the grid, the mathematical grid into which all these monuments are built. So if we look first at post 24, it's actually a latitude holder. Okay, now if we do multiply the numbers of degrees, the numbers of minutes, number of seconds, if you put your pointer on Google Earth on that post, 24, that's 51 degrees times 11 times 22.45, you'll get 12,600. And it's a 126 grid. It's the numbers 1, 2, 6 specifically we're interested in. Now, post 1, it's the longitude. Now, one thing you have to know that all the mathematics for the monuments is actually from the apex of the Great Pyramid of Giza. That's the original prime meridian, and we'll be doing that in just a second. So you add on 31 degrees 8 minutes and 3 seconds, because we're west of Greenwich here, to the Greenwich reading, and here we get 32 degrees 55, 12.27 west. And if you multiply those together, you get a 216 grid, 21,600. So that is why those two posts have the additional markings. You'll find it's basically 12.6 and 21.6, and it's the ratio 12:21, which you'll find when we get to the Great Pyramid and the Giza Plateau. So this is the grid system which you can actually implement around all the monuments. It depends on the degrees and minutes and seconds at each location. And each monument has two sets of what's called vectors. The first vector comes from where those two axes meet, which is actually just over here. It's precisely here. This is the green 54 to 24 axis and the 23 axis through the red post. And when you divide the grid latitude by longitude at that location, you get a vector of 0.59. And it's the numbers 5 and 9 which are a key part to understanding these monuments. This monument here specifically. So,
may I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
If you look it back, I see here also the spiral. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
No, I just drew these circles in because they're specific to the blacktop posts, which are not in the circles. It took me absolutely ages to get the saga of what those are about, but I've got it now.
And how long have you done this to figure this out, you say?
You don't want to know. Quite a large part of my life in the last decade.
Okay. And why did you start? Why did you feel that you have to do this?
Bored with everything else. No one else seemed to know what anything was. Mainstream's not bringing out anything sensible. There's the sort of the new age concepts and so on, and there's some truth in everything. There's researchers who do science on the energy side, and most of what they've got is true because there's energies associated with all these sites. But I'm doing just the maths. I've got my hands full with just doing the maths.
Okay.
All right, so it's all come together basically in the last 3.5 years. When I discovered that Marco Rodin's presentation called The Fountain of Numbers, which you can find that on YouTube, all the numbers he was generating were the numbers I was getting off the monuments. And so that actually, when I knew that, it made it a lot easier to actually complete and find the pieces of the jigsaw. All I do is I run a spreadsheet for actually helping me find vectors and also one for finding multipliers and divisors with grid latitudes and longitudes. So you go on Google Earth. You cannot do this without Google Earth. Put the pin in the middle or where it is you want to measure and look at the degrees, minutes and seconds, multiply them together and then have a look and see what divisors there are in my spreadsheet because I know all the common ones. Yeah. And I've got about 150 to 200, something like that. And that allows me to do the decoding.
Okay.
So literally there's hundreds of thousands of calculations, but most of them are just enter one number in the spreadsheet, bing, and you just look down the list and say, oh yeah, it's a radian, it's right on the radian, and so on. And then you can cure the maths.
Okay.
So that's the way it works. Now there's actually another grid, okay, apart from 216 and 126, and I found this one over at Giza. So that's the Great Pyramid up top, that's the middle pyramid. Well, let's call it the Golden Pyramid because it's got the golden ratio in it, which you'll find out in a moment. Now the offset between the Great Pyramid and the middle pyramid is 12.3 seconds exactly. So that's a 12-3 grid, 1, 2, 3. And then the offset to the small pyramid, which is the miniature version of the Great Pyramid, they're exactly identical physically, except for the size, is 21.3, 213. So that's 3 degrees different from the 126 and 216 grids. And by the way, those numbers and these numbers are both at right angles. Everything's about right angles here and whole number science. And all of the mathematics is based on prime numbers squared, because it's only prime numbers. When they're squared, they generate true counting systems, three-dimensional counting systems. All the others don't work. So if you look at Marco Rodin's work, that's what he has taught me, and I believe him.
Yeah.
And by the way, prime numbers, they're all to do with energy and motion. Okay, and this is where the spiritual connection comes, because these sites illustrate spiritual growth as well. And it's all emotional. And it's really unfortunate that we're right at the end of the intellectual cycle, and it's just changing because we're entering Aquarius, as the Sphinx is telling us now. Which started around 2000 AD, and that went going back to an emotional society. Yeah. And we'll realise that perhaps we're not supposed to be doing all the crazy things we're doing and destroying everything which God made perfectly, thinking that we can make better, where everything we make, most of it ends up in landfill, and we then expect God's reclamation system to actually get rid of all our creations, which are all out of harmony with love, by the way.
I see also the 441.
Yes. Okay, he's stealing the show here. I'd sort of like to take you to Giza now, because it's really important you understand the Great Pyramid, because it's the basis for this entire system. A little while ago, French astronomer Murat, he postulated that the Great Pyramid of Giza was the original prime meridian for the planet, and he was actually right. So this is his actual map. I'm sorry it doesn't come out very well on my printer, but there we go, it shows you the prime meridian there. Now, if we go to the Great Pyramid, so there's the Great Pyramid. So the prime meridian is 0 degrees. And 0 degrees, if you go around once, is also 360 degrees. And what did we say about 360 degrees? 360 degrees is 2 pi radians. Okay, because the whole system is written in radian-based mathematics. And what I've been doing is converting all my basic mathematics into radian-based mathematics as I go through the monuments now. So the Great Pyramid is actually a model of 2 pi. And the reason why it is, now its original casing height, and this is its correct height and it's in meters, is 147 meters. Now if you multiply 147 by 2 times pi, and we use the 22/7 expression, we get the base circumference, which is 924 meters. So that's the 4 sides, so we just divide 924 by 4, and we get the side length 231 meters. Now do you remember the Aubrey pits when we walked over where the pathway was? At the bottom, where we're supposed to come in, that was a 231 when we added the 5 pits together, and when we walked out at 20/24, that gave us the 147. I just happened to notice that, and I thought that's quite remarkable. That did they do that deliberately, or has it just happened?
Coincidence.
Coincidence, but there's so many coincidences that you have to say who's controlling this, because mathematics actually controls everything. Our entire existence is based on mathematics. What a dreadful thought. Now, the Great Golden Pyramid, if we cut it in half and make it into a right angle triangle, if we call the base length 1, then the slope length ratio from 1 will be 1.618, and that is the golden ratio. Okay, 1 to 1.618, and that comes from another diagram which I should have shown you previously, but we'll do that in the studio. Okay, because the 137.5 degree angle, it divides the circumference in the ratio of 1 to 1.618. So, but I'll show you that on the diagram a bit later. So there we go, and these are the actual true sizes. These dimensions and everything here are the basis for the entire mathematics system of radians. And by the way, inside the Great Pyramid, and people have already done this, they've been in and measured the passageways and things, and found that they actually tally out in inches. So yeah, you know there's a casing. Inside the casing, the dimensions are actually in imperial feet and inches. And the actual internal measurement, the side length is 9,000 inches. Okay, and the height is the radian, 5,727. 0.27. And it's just the numbers, 5727, that's the radian. And by the way, that's the height of West Kennet Long Barrow, is 527 feet. Okay, and I'll show you about that in the studio. So there we go, a little basic introduction to the Great Pyramid. It's the model of 2 pi. Now, one thing we saw back at Stonehenge, we looked at the sunrise angle next to the heel stone with that nice big brass arrow, 49.5 degrees. The sunrise was between 34 and 35 pi. You know, the outer circle was 30 pi's, okay, and then we had inside, we have 4 more pi's taller, 30 plus 4 is 34, and then the big one on the end, which is struck by the sunrise, is 35 pi. Now, in this monument here, the red top post is actually post number 1. Okay, all wooden post circles and all stone circles, they're all numbered primarily clockwise to start with. So I had a choice of 2 posts basically, because that one was marked and that one was. I never, all the maths rolled off completely, with that being number 1. So that is 1 pi radians. Each wooden post represents pi radians, or 180 degrees. So each post, as we count round, you add on another 180 degrees. So if you swing the camera around, past to the big gap here, where the white post is, the white band is, that is 30 pi radians before we get to the big gap. So that's the outer of Stonehenge. That's the outer Sarsen circle. If we then count on 31, 32, 33, 34, 35 pi's, they're the 2 I put the yellow bands on. So they're 34, 35, and this black post in front of us, from the physical mass center behind us, is actually the 49.5 degree mass angle holder for this monument. So that's the sunrise at this latitude and Stonehenge, and it's used for Avebury as well in all the calculations there. So 34.5 pi at Stonehenge and the 34.5 pi radians here. And that is how it's encoded.
I understand that you figured it out very well, but
Yeah.
it's much information.
Yeah, it is.
It took a lifelong to do this.
It sort of comes, you find another bit of the jigsaw and then you've got more pieces to play with and it becomes easier. So I've got so many bits of the jigsaw now, it's actually almost child's play. You can get somewhere quite well within half an hour on most monuments, because I've got an extensive spreadsheet of numbers which are used in the monuments, and it makes the decoding that much easier. But it's what gets me is the way it all fits together. It's just precise, and how you can do that on the surface of the planet, which is a sphere. It's mind-blowing, because there's nothing out of place. It's all precise. If I don't get a precise answer, then I know I haven't got the right mass. It's that simple. But you know, to even conceive this, you've got to be on a seriously different level of intelligence, you know, than we are today. And but you have to understand Marcos Rodin's work to understand what's going on here. I can only really just introduce you to just scratch the surface, you know, in a filmed interview
And check it out by
and so
yourself.
on. Well, like I say, if you contact me just by email, I'll send you a link to the information I've got so far, what I've released in the public domain, because it's all going in for free. I don't charge for anything because I don't own it. It's not mine. It's been discovered and taught thousands of years ago on the planet. So, you know, it's just a gift. These monuments are actually a gift because they describe the science of growth. It's how all living systems connect to source energies to grow. Now, our society on Earth can't grow at the moment without more truth. Okay, we need truth on the planet to be able to grow as a society, and that's the direction of love, by the way. So our society, to become more loving, we need more truth. Unfortunately, error always fights for itself. And it's a terrible thing, really. But you'll find that, because I know how difficult it is, you know, to get people interested. You know, when you start talking mathematics to people, a lot of people just turn off and walk away.
There was one guy here who was interested, who was listening here. You gave him his card.
I share with anyone who's interested. Yeah, and by the way, on the planet, the truth is always free. You never pay for it.
Yeah, but you only have to pay attention.
Well, pay attention. Yeah, that's true.
That's right.
I like that.
Okay. Is there something more to tell, or we go to?
I was just going to show you. This is the 34 and 35 pi. You remember the sunrise at Stonehenge? 30 on the outer ring plus the 4, 34, and then 35, the big pi on the end. Well, in the radian-based maths, so each of these is going up in 34 times 180, gives you 6,120. 6, and 1 plus 2 is 3. That's the 6 and 3 of magnetism. And then in the middle, 34 and a half is 6,210. 6 and 2 plus 1 is 3 again. 6 and 3 of magnetism. And then the 35 pi, guess what, is 6,300. 35 pi radians. And that is the point. The reason why they use the sunrise is because the sun is the source of energy. And in the radian-based energy science, that is the point of connection to source energies. Maximum connection, by the way. In this monument here, between the summer solstice, which is 49.5 degrees from true north,
The line here.
it's between the midwinter sunrise, it's 81 degrees. So it's an 81 degree span. And 81 happens to be 9 squared, or spirit squared. Before we go, I'd like to show you a little bit about the surrounding area and Darrington Walls. This is my big map of the area. So this is Darrington Walls, which you panned over just a little bit earlier. It's a huge earthwork monument just immediately to the north of Woodhenge. Darrington Walls has an avenue, a very, very short avenue, which goes to the River Avon, which comes down, it's this wiggly blue line, and it comes up in that big U shape to Darrington Walls. Now, there's 2 more sets of wooden post circles were discovered in the 1960s when the A345 road was put through. Okay, now those circles actually hold the mathematics for the Middle Pyramid at Giza. Okay, the Middle Pyramid at Giza has a long causeway, and at the bottom of that causeway is the Sphinx, and beyond that there used to be a channel or deviating from the river Nile over there. Now the River Nile flows south to north. And the Giza complex is basically, it's a male complex because it's got squares and pointy things, okay? All the monuments here are basically more female type because they're circles. So we've got square mathematics over on Giza, and we've got circular mathematics here. Energy, or connection to source, is also represented by the flow of water. And this is when we come to do the Fibonacci and so on, and the 369, I'll show you what's going on. But basically, the River Avon here goes from north to south. So that's the female flow connection, and to Darrington Walls. And by the way, you know, we have the Greenwich meridian today. Something must have been found, because that is a true meridian. It's part of this mathematics, and it's specifically for Darrington Walls. Because if you look at where the avenue is from Greenwich, it's exactly 1 degree 47 minutes, 147. It passes directly through that very, very short avenue. I'll do that in better detail in a moment. That's just showing you the other circles inside Darrington Walls. So the southern circle, these round rings here, there's 6 of them. And it was a series of 6 circles, similar to here, but with different numbers of posts and different sizes. To the north side, we have 2 more circles. And this is actually the setup for making 3, 4, 5 triangles. Yeah, that's the crazy thing, that whoever designed the road system, it's just comical that they discovered these 2 sets of circles inside Darrington Walls, putting the A345 road on top of the 2 circles that hold the mass for the 345 pyramid. I find that incredible. What is 360? 2 pi radians. And what do we find at 2 pi on the planet? We find the Great Pyramid of Giza. Right. Okay. Now, before we leave this site, I just want to show you a bit of magic.
I already hear magic.
Oh, we need to do the 4-4-1s. Can you remind me to do that?
Yeah, yeah.
This is the orientation. That's the four wooden posts, the two green ones, and the two red ones above the 6 rings.
Oh, the 2 red ones over there, and the green.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So if we count from the left, 1 pi, 2 pi. What do we find at 2 pi?
The pyramid.
The pyramid.
No. Oh, yeah.
So there we are. And we've also been told that the golden ratio is shown by 137.5 feet. So from the middle post, with the dark green band one up there, we're just drawing the 2 angles with the correct angles for the Great Pyramid, and put the line across, and there we go, there's the maths.
Yeah.
And the way it does it is whatever number of posts which are carved away from the main set of posts. So we've got 14 to 22, okay, but there's also 2 more sets of numbers which come from using the 5 and 9 we get from the center. You add and subtract 59 from the outer ring numbers, post numbers of 60. It sounds a bit complicated, but you've got 3 phases now. This is the phases which the archaeologists are finding because they built things in different phases. If we add the post numbers of the reds numbers, so that's 45 through to 37, okay, we get 369, adding those post numbers together. And if we add the blue ones together, that's 73 to 81, we get 693. And now when we get out to Avebury, you'll find they've used 693 feet for one of the slope angles of the, one of the 3 footprints at Avebury for the Great Pyramid. There's 2 which are facing north, and 1 which is a huge one, which incorporates West Kennet Long Barrow and the sanctuary. They set up the 2 different axes of 7 degrees and 22 degrees. And what is pi? 22 divided by 7. All right, and that's another way of expressing pi through 2 angles, a 7-degree angle and a 22-degree angle. And I'll try and, if we've got time, I will actually go through that with you. So.
Okay, very interesting.
So there we go. There's the Great Pyramid, and it actually runs through. I put a pink band on that post there. That's post 14 and 13. I'm still trying to work out if it's supposed to be 13.75 where it goes through. That's the way they work the mathematics, and it's crazy. And if you look on the other side, there's another pink band post. And that's post 41. And that's the one that the base runs through. It goes straight through that post. 14 and 41 are big number players in this situation here. One thing I'd just like to explain, because I'm going to forget otherwise, the Aubrey pits, there's 56 pits. Okay, that's divisible by 7, 7 times 8. But it's also 4 times 14 for 56. When you get up to Avebury, the outer ring is 98 stones, and 98 is 14 times 7. Now, a lot of this maths resolves about what happens when you divide numbers by 7. It's an extremely important number, and the Avebury monument is actually located at 1/7 of 360 degrees up from the equator. So if you go up from the equator, 0 degrees up to passing straight through the center, even between the 2 rings in Avebury, that's 1/7 of 360 degrees. Okay, so it's all about division by 7 and the number 7, and the relationship between the Aubrey pits and the stones on the outer of Avebury is the ratio of 4 to 7. That's 56 to 98. And there's something particular which happens. There's a relationship between 7 and the number 4, but I'll do that in the studio.
This place is called Woodhenge.
It is.
But I see concrete.
Yeah,
and
it would be totally impossible to put wooden posts back.
I
and
understand.
Of course the wood rots, and it would be a hazard for people walking around. Now, I don't actually need to know the heights of the posts. I'm certain on the heights of the outer 3 rings so far. The outer ring is 6 feet tall, that's 60 feet.
In the ground.
No, 6 feet above.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the 60 posts at 6 feet, then the green top ones, 32 of those, they're 11 feet tall. And then the red top posts, there's 16 of those, and they are 21 feet tall.
And who made this Woodhenge? Who made this?
It's the same band of people who were tasked to actually encode this system on the planet. Like I say, the information's been on this planet 100,000 years, something like that. But what happened at a certain point was the spiritual condition improved on Earth, where our spirit body's sight can work concurrently with our physical body's sight, which meant we could see and talk to people who've passed on. So the only difference is we've still got the physical body. When the silver cord breaks, now you're permanent in your spirit body.
Yeah, who made this?
Who made it? Well, I really can't say. It's the same group of individuals because it's one big plan implemented right around the planet. And these originally, if you wonder how people can get from A to B, well, if you're a spirit, you can materialize physical form anywhere. And your spirits have got the technology to actually do all the necessary manipulations to the landscape. It's extensive, by the way. And something else which is going to challenge your imagination or your emotions is the fact that every single one of these locations, the height above our current sea level is part of the mathematics. So we're at 320 feet here at Woodhenge. Like I say, up at West Kennet Long Barrow, it's 572 feet above sea level, and that's the radian. The sanctuary is 550 feet. You can check this all out on Google Earth, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. And 550 is the diameter of Silbury Hill, and it's also 4 times the golden angle, 137.5 degrees. And so it goes on.